Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I thought I'd talk a little bit this morning about something that came up in the course of answering a reader's question. Somebody had written in and asked me about how far they'd have to go back in time to avoid some of the Big Brother technology that's being installed in cars and what constitutes a quote-unquote modern car. And I replied that, in my opinion, a modern car really is any car that has fuel injection and an overdrive transmission, because those cars, which they've been making now since the 80s, will drive like any new car in terms of they'll start right up, they don't stall. They're largely maintenance-free. They don't have to constantly fiddle with the carburetor or with the ignition. They don't have carburetors. The ignitions are largely fully electronic and don't require much adjustment. They have overdrive transmissions, so they're good on the highway, so on and so on. But at any rate, in the course of answering that reader's question, I referenced the mid-90s era Toyota Corolla and contrasted it with the new Corolla. Interestingly enough, despite the passage of a quarter century, 25 years, the new Corolla, despite having all of this fancy technology, gets about the same gas mileage as a 95 Corolla. They both get about 28 city, 38 on the highway. Virtually no difference. The new car is slightly more powerful, about 20 horsepower more powerful than the 95 model, but that's pretty much nixed by the new Corolla's much heavier curb weight. So the point that I wanted to make was that modern cars, quote unquote, have been with us now for a quarter century, and that in terms of meaningful function, I think that cars reached the apotheosis, the peak of their design in the mid-90s to the early 2000s, and that ever since that time, cars have just been encrusted with more and more elaborate electronic technology to try to make up for the fact that there really aren't the kinds of huge, meaningful improvements in just everyday functionality that had been the case previously throughout the course of car history. I mean, if you took a 95 Corolla, let's say, and compared it with an equivalent from 25 years prior, something that was made, say, around 1970, the difference would have been striking. The 1970 economy car would have been bulky, hard to drive, unpleasant to drive, not even particularly good gas mileage, stalling in traffic, not very long-lived. Whereas that 95 Corolla, heck, you see them on the road all the time. You know, they're 25 years old and older, and they're still being used every day as daily driver cars. So I think that part of the reason why there has been this rush to add all of this technology to cars is just to make them seem like they're new, but they're really not. You know, so if you want to drive a new car, a modern car, but don't want a lot of this superfluous fluff that's expensive and prone to break down that they're putting on these brand new modern cars, maybe think about getting something from the 90s or the early 2000s, or actually you could even go farther back, get a car from the 70s and add a few of these updates, things like a throttle body fuel injection system and an overdrive transmission, and you'd have 90+% of what makes a modern car modern, but without all the downsides of the modern car. So that is my thought for this morning here in the woods of Southwest Virginia. I should have something up about the 2020 Toyota RAV4 shortly. Interestingly, Toyota is going to offer their TRD off-road package with the thing, marking the first time that you can get something fairly heavy-duty in Toyota's light-duty crossover. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with you again soon.